Hi Anshu, good evening. Good evening, Footstrong. Another step by step with Footstrong evening. My name is Kannan Sundararajan. I'm also called as Coach K. We're going to have an exciting conversation with Rashmi Cherian. Let's wait for a few more seconds before the Footstrong Nation joins this conversation. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Who's there in the conversation? Let's see. Ashu Venezuela, that's Rashmi. Okay, let me see if I can bring her into the conversation. We have Uvi. I am Chetan Puruls. Karan Vaswani, UV27, Srinidhi Jagan. Running, that's a familiar name. Hi Rashmi, good evening.
Hi Kay, good evening. How are you?
Oh, awesome, fantastic. Just give me a second. Let me adjust the volume a little bit. All right, we are connected on this Footstrong step-by-step session. This is a live session with the experts, and I'm extremely happy and privileged to be connecting with you, Rashmi. Why don't we start with a quick set of introductions so that the Footstrong Nation knows who these two people are. My name is Kannan Sundararajan. I go by Coach K. I'm the IT delivery manager transformed into a full-time coach. I'm a fitness enthusiast. I love running. I love endurance running. But off late, I've been focused a lot on the performance side of coaching. I'm also the founder and the race director of Ootyultra and Bisonultra. Very popular running events. All right, not enough. I would like to welcome you, Rashmi. What I know about you is you are a national health awarded sports nutritionist and also a registered dietitian. You work with sports men and women and athletes all the time. You're also a sports nutrition and a consultant with Sports and Youth Service Department of Govt of Odisha. I went through your credentials and it's pretty exhaustive. You've been working with a lot of athletic as well as the sporting performance bodies in India. That's pretty impressive work that you've been doing. And you're also the co-founder of the Wellness Wolves and has formerly worked with the elite football clubs like the Paris Saint-Germain and Punjab Football Club. Welcome to the show, Rashmi.
Thank you so much, Kay. Thanks a lot.
All right, so today our focus is going to be talking about elite athlete and their nutrition, because we all know that nutrition is a subject that revolves around our life. 3 square meals to performance nutrition, especially a lot of athletes and fitness enthusiasts. They're connected with us today. Everybody is concerned about where do I get the energy, how do I process the energy, and also how do I convert the energy into meaningful to take care of ourselves in terms of the health and wellness or the performance side of things, right? Today
Correct.
we are here to talk about the elite athletes and their nutrition. Why don't we start by setting a context of who an elite athlete is? And if you could probably throw some light on, okay, who's an elite athlete here? What kind of people these are? How are they different from a normal person like me?
See, elite athletes are generally performing at a next level in their game, at a high level. Those professional athletes whose plan is at a next level, going to nationals, internationals. So basically, all your elite athletes will come in that category who are training at a very advanced level to achieve something in their sport specific.
Okay, so these are the record holders, right? So we also know about the Commonwealth Games that are happening, and then there are a series of records being set. And Abhinav Sable, if you're a runner, definitely would have seen that steeplechase, the kind of intense competition, and there's a lot of excitement. So these are some, it looks like a special category of human being with some exceptional talent. Not everything is inborn, but also it's well nurtured and conditioned. And when we talk about elite level, the performance, apart from the condition in which they operate, the mental aspect of things, the physical aspect of things,
Physical.
the training, and the nutrition plays a very, very crucial role here, right? So now,
Yes.
when we talk about nutrition, what does this involve? Is it just the sports performance nutrition, or is it all around the athlete's life and what they eat in the morning, afternoon, and lunch? So, what exactly is the
Yeah, I'll
nutrition?
give you an idea because a lot of people have this confusion. What is this nutrition? Because most of the people or athletes, when they come to me, they think that it's all about healthy eating. Okay, so yes, healthy eating is one aspect of sports nutrition or a performance nutrition. Anyways, you have to eat healthy. But when it comes to nutrition, see, their life is very much different from a regular person. Waking up early in the morning, training for 4 5 hours in a day, maybe six. I've met athletes who train 10 hours in a day kinds. Okay, so it's like their life is so much different. Lot of their body goes through a lot of stress in terms of mental, physical. So nutrition is something, it fuels you up. It takes care of a lot of things because see, okay, if the nutrition is not in place, you won't be able to get the benefits where you are putting in your effort. It doesn't come up. So nutrition is something, see, it's not something too much different from what a normal person eats. It's not complicated also because a lot of people think it's too complicated and I can't do a diet or I don't want to go to a dietitian. So there is nothing called diet for an athlete or elite level performance. If we talk about, it's not something complicated. It's simple, basic, but something with consistency you have to do. Like every day you go for training, same thing, nutrition is something a person needs to take care every single day. And it will include not only your 3 meals, because see, breakfast, lunch, dinner is always on point for most of the people. The thing is this, what are you eating before your training? What are you doing during your training? And what are you doing after your training? Are you taking care of that? Because once you take care of those things, then only whatever purpose you are training your body, you will get outcomes out of it. So sports nutrition will include what are you going to eat, when are you going to eat, and how much you are going to eat. So when, what, and how much. These three are the important aspects which comes in picture when we work with athletes.
Okay,
Okay,
fantastic. So
so
that's a good
yes,
understanding it. So when I think about some of the training strategies followed by the elite athletes, most of the time they're training more than an hour and a half. There's like 90+ minute sessions, sometimes even back to
yes,
back. If we talk about let's say the soccer players, or if you talk about tennis players, so they are training in a day for almost 6 to 7 hours. They
correct,
have to train on strength and conditioning. They have to keep their aerobic engine going. They have to
right,
make sure that they are skill development, the actual tennis game, because that's the most
yes.
important thing. Everything plays a very crucial role. So they are training for multiple hours in a day.
A
And
multiple. And
then
what happens, like in training, we have periodization, same way nutrition it is required. It has to change, like you are in off season or Saturday is your off day or half day. So we need to go through all of that even in nutrition. Rest day
so
is
that,
not a cheat day. It is a
yeah,
day for
that
your
is important.
recovery.
Uh-huh.
So in nutrition, we take care of even of that. Periodization is very, very important when it comes to an athlete training, going through different phases throughout a year. Something close up like pre-season meal, it will be like very much we need to focus on that. Trainings go intense and all of that. Off season is something we have to take care. So all these things also comes in the picture when we work in nutrition.
Yeah, and that's well said. Now, when you talk about a weekly cycle will be different from a monthly cycle, and then most of the time they are also performing. They are in the competition, they're out of the competition,
Exactly.
and certain sports are very, very predictable. Let's say when you say winter sports, you know that the winter sports are happening in certain specific months.
Exactly.
But
Yes.
when we talk about game of tennis or badminton, they are happening throughout the year, and then
Correct.
maintaining their fitness levels and also the nutrition becomes very, very crucial here. So now I
And
have one
especially when you're
question here.
traveling throughout the country.
Absolutely,
So like
absolutely.
towards North India, it's going to be really hot in certain months. When you come towards Bangalore side, it's most of the time windy, cold, and all of that. So it's like throughout the country, you will get different kinds of environment and climatic conditions. So
And
considering all
also
of
the
that
type of
again,
food. And the type of food, right? So the type of food that they
Exactly,
get.
type of the food, it's like big time because as soon as athletes go to a particular city like Delhi, Haryana, Punjab, they forget that I'm an athlete and I have come for a purpose. They sit and hog and that entire focus goes off.
That's yeah, their extra set of Golgappas are not going to help them anyway, right?
Yes.
I've read some research studies now. They talk about especially performing athletes consuming as high as 50 kilocalories of energy per kilogram of their body weight per day. So
Yes.
let's say if an athlete weighs about 60 kilograms, and that's roughly about 3,600 kilocalories, because my average consumption a day when I'm not training is about 1,800. And then when I'm training,
Yes.
sometimes it goes up another 400, 500 kilocalories. So I operate between 1,800 to 2,300 kilocalories. But let's not talk about the Diwali times when we consume about 4,000 kilocalories and
Right.
then feel guilty
Right.
about it. So now, how do they really plan for, you also mentioned about the concept of periodization. So let's take a typical life cycle of an elite athlete, and also how does the planning really go when you want to fuel an elite athlete for their performance, and how do you really approach them?
Okay, so see, you mentioned about 3,000. Let me tell you, I've planned even for 6,500 calorie diet. Okay, for a weightlifter, like even for my football players at a senior level, I've gone for 5,000 plus calories because see what happens, they are burning so much. So when we plan out a nutrition for an athlete, it's like a lot of people approach me, Madam, ek diet chart bana do. So I want to tell like diet charts or nutrition plans are not made like that. I need to understand how many hours an athlete is training. Then what is the intensity, at what level that athlete is, beginner, intermediate, or at a senior level. How much strength-based workouts are involved in a day. Okay, I have to see his resting metabolic rate, how many calories he's burning when he's at rest. So all those things I have to see and then accordingly work on the calories. And another thing that plays an important role is their body composition goals. Because somebody wants to lose weight,
Yeah,
another person wants to gain muscle mass. So body composition plays a very important role when we work on elite athletes nutrition, so their fat percentage, muscle mass, and accordingly then we work on the calories, and then sources we decide from where to get, because if somebody has to drop weight, somebody has to gain weight, we can't be feeding peanut butter to somebody who wants to
absolutely.
drop weight. Okay, so we need to see all these things and then chart out how many calories we want to go for. And depending upon power sport, endurance sport, and depending upon their strength based workouts and all of that, then we decide on other macros in their diet and the sources of food. But these are the some things that we decide on. And then climatic condition plays a very important role,
Yes.
because if it's too hot and humid, we have to look for extra hydration also. Plus their calorie burn will be little more higher also. So considering all of that, then we will decide on the actual calorie part of an athlete.
Absolutely. When I knew about Michael Phelps consuming about 9,000 kilocalories of energy,
Calories, yes.
hogging 3,000, it's like, how is it humanly possible? Now one question that I always wanted to ask, especially a nutritionist like you, is: can anybody train to go to that level of fuel consumption? Like I'm close to 50, and if I end up operating theoretically, let's say I want to perform and then I'm exercising, doing multiple sessions of training.
Hmm.
Can I train my gut to consume 6,000 calories, or you said 3,500 or 4,000 calories? Is it possible for us to train our gut to consume so much?
Yes, depending upon that kind of activities involved or not, and your body really needs that many calories. Okay, so like I was talking about a group of weightlifters wherein really high intense, like sometimes they operate at 80% of their capacity in their trainings. At that point, the calorie consumption goes really high. Okay, so yes, because what happens is like then you start seeing the outcomes of not fueling them properly. And that's a sign that, okay, they are under fueling basically. It's we are unable to match up with their training. So what happens, Kay,
And
whenever
if you
I
may,
plan,
if I
hmm,
may interrupt, what are the signs of under fueling, especially at the elite level?
yes, so it's like they start getting tired very early.
Okay.
Fatigue starts creeping in early. Stress fractures keeps happening a lot. Okay, frequent injuries or frequent aches and pains, they will not recover well. Recovery is going to take very longer time, more than 24 to 48 hours. DOMS will be there. So these are the basic signs and symptoms through which we can make out that fueling is not happening properly. And their immunity starts dropping. They start getting sick frequently, like frequent high fevers will be there, or they start getting cold. So body is unable to cope up with that. So these are the signs that will happen. So what happens? We straight away never jump to a 6,000, 5,000 calorie diet. Okay. We always train them. If they were consuming 2,000, I will first train them to go to 2,500. Because their gut will also not be able to take that much. They might be pukish, vomiting, because body will take time. So step by step, it takes at least a month's time or 2 months time for an athlete to get adjusted to a new routine or to start increasing their food intake to next level. So it takes time. So we never jump to that level, but yeah, we need to understand if that athlete really needs that many calories or not.
Okay, no, I can imagine the process that somebody has to go through to even get accustomed to higher energy consumption. But those are some really good inputs that you gave. That the performance drops, fatigue, feeling of fatigue, and of course the metabolism changes, their physiological changes, and the mood swings and all this. And I'm
And
sure
one
even
more
in
thing, their hormones go off key, especially in females. And recently I made a YouTube video on menstrual cycles and females in sports. Their cycles go off, and most of the people think it's normal for females to go off their cycles, which is not. Okay, so this is one of the major signs fueling is not apt to support their training and their hormones. Even in guys, I'm seeing a lot these youngsters having very low testosterone levels. Yes, other factors are responsible like sleep and rest and recovery, but at the same time, food is very, very important. Hormonal imbalance is pretty common. Thyroid is shooting up high. Cortisol is high, stress hormones are high in athletes. So many things are there that even in hormone imbalance we'll see in underfueling when it's done by
So
athletes.
it looks like a complicated process, right? I think that's why I'm not in the profession. Because fueling athletes to perform, it's a medical. We need the doctors, especially the coordination of the strength and conditioning coaches, the nutritionist, and also, of course, a certain degree of psychological counseling we talk about.
Yes.
And the skill-based coaches, so they work in a team. So can you describe a typical setup of when you engage in a team sport, for example? You talked about working with a football club. How do you really plan for let's say a team of soccer players? Because if you really divide the sporting demand of a soccer player, somebody who is playing forward will have different energy demands than the goalkeeper. Okay.
Yes.
So
Yes.
how do
Yes.
you really
Yes.
map those requirements and include them in your nutrition planning for the athletes?
Yeah, so like you said, Kay, it's very important that we have a psychologist, a proper physio trainer, because it's a team or individual. We need help of everybody. One person can't be master of everything. And that is pretty lacking in our Indian sports, wherein we miss out on the important links, the support system which is required for an athlete. So when I work with team sports and even individual sports, what I do, I make an effort to speak to the coach. Okay, and when I'm traveling with the athletes or for the academy, I will sit and watch their game and have conversations with their coach, with their physio, trainer about the athletes. Because see, yes, we will give the diet chart to everyone to follow a common one, but then individually we need to understand, because they are individuals and nutrition or anything is not same for everyone. It is different for each person. So, and sometimes I need to understand their psychological nature also, because somebody is not eating anything or something, it's not always that person doesn't like. Could be a psychological thing involved behind it. Okay, or from a trainer physio, I'm able to understand who is weak in his core or in some strength, energy, all of that. Then what happens? I counsel that athlete basically in those lines, how they need to do and what are the things that will help. So consultation or being in touch with all the support staff of an athlete is very, very important to understand, to work on a nutrition for an athlete.
How does this process work for, let's say, the junior athletes? And of course, we're again talking about the elite athletes, right? This conversation is all
Yeah.
about elite athletes who are either playing at the national level, state level, or record holders, Olympians. How does this process work with little children? I don't know, what is the youngest athlete that you work with, in terms of their age
I
profile?
worked with 7 years old.
7 years old, okay. So what kind
Yeah,
of,
and my
can
son
you talk about?
himself is in football since the age of 5 years.
All right.
So he is into that league and professional level training from a very young age. So being a parent of an athlete and dealing with young athletes, both sides I have seen. And I am into actively. So my point is, K, unless you don't have a mindset of that kind of elite level athlete from a young age, you will never reach to that level. And that's what I see missing with our parents and athletes about this thing. See, you don't
No,
become
I think
elite
the
athlete like
awareness,
that.
not talking about the missing aspect of, what I think the awareness of the athlete, parents, coaches, the entire community, the support structure, the support system that we have. So the awareness is
Yeah,
very, very critical, right? Even the parents need to be aware, because I know that there are a lot of
exactly. Because you
families
have to
I
work
deal
from
with,
a very young age, okay?
and it's,
If you don't
yeah,
start when you start a sport, if you don't start with the same mentality and the support thing, you can't think of or imagine to going to elite level. Okay, see, earlier days were different. Now the competition is hard and you have to train smartly. Okay, taking care of everything. So unless you don't take care at a young age, so what you are asking me about a grassroots, because lot I work in the grassroots level with young athletes, helping them to go to next level. So if all these things are not taken care, because see, they are struggling with their studies also. Like here, training is not over and the bus is already waiting. So they are under the, because see, I still hear from parents, if sport doesn't work, then we have academics. I understand that's there, but then we need to give that support so that if doesn't come, it does work for that kid to explore and become next level in the game. Okay, so
uh,
what an elite athlete needs, even at a grassroots level, we do need, so that like athlete is not struggling at the age of 16, 17, 18, when is the time to perform and show some achievements and something. A lot of them come to me when they're already 16, 17, 18, and changing their palate is a task at that point. Whereas when I work with 8, 9, and 10, it's easy. They learn fast and they continue it for a longer period of time.
okay.
So for athletes and associations, they need to start focusing at the grassroots level also, that they need all these helps, whether
No,
it's fitness or
that's
nutrition.
undeniable fact. Especially if somebody, we've also seen that some of the kids from absolutely no access to good sporting facility, village kids, they all come and shine sometimes, right? And it
Yes,
surprises when you talk about compare a kid or an elite athlete who's in a city bred population
yes,
versus a village bred population. Now, what is the biggest difference in terms of their nutrition? Now, forget about so getting access to a nutritionist who works with athletes is definitely a difficult thing for many of the kids who are from the poor
yes.
family background. So, what is happening there in terms of when we talk about, again, supplementation is a big deal. That's something that I would like to bring your attention to. So the kids who can access to good quality, high quality, the so-called nutritious food, and the versus the kids who do not have access to that. What exactly is the energy gap and then performance gap? And then how do you think this needs to be addressed? Again, grassroots level, a lot of education needed. The schools and the coaching bodies, they play a
Yes.
very critical role. If anybody listening to this conversation say, what do you think they should be doing differently?
See, Kay, I work with those group also, wherein kids are underprivileged, they are training for sports. I travel for a couple of organizations to interiors of Andhra and other places wherein they are really underprivileged and can't take care, and they are performing well. Okay, what makes a difference is like the kind of desire they have, because not everything is available to them, okay, to perform in their game. Second thing, they're not exposed to so much of junk, though they have less
Uh,
of nutritious food, but whatever they are eating is
yeah.
nutritious they are eating. Okay, so junk is not acid. So if they're hungry, they're going for their roti, rice, sambar, those kind of things. Instead of jumping to KFC or chips or burger or cold drinks and all of those. So those things are not accessible to them. So whatever they are eating is actually nutritious. Maybe less, but then it's nutritious, and you always don't need a supplement. I do educate them how with the basic things you can do. And when we have academies working there, I really appreciate with couple of academies that I'm working, they're putting in effort for those kids with minimum budget how to get nutritious foods for them, things made out of lentils and legumes and locally grown foods. So it's nothing like that you need really exotic foods. I always teach my athletes, and even if they have access, I tell parents don't do that because it's available at home. Once they are in the outskirts of a city where curd rice is also a problem, how are they going to perform? So I always educate them, go for basic, go for local items, try to get things out of those things. So yes, there is a gap between that, but then I would always say those kids, though they are less privileged, but then the desire to perform in their game is really high, and the access of food is quite nutritious for them that is there.
I think that
So
the choices are very little and when they tend to kind of not go focus. So now one of the challenges that most of the Indian athletes who perform at an international scene, let's say going to Birmingham or going to Tokyo or going to even European countries, sometimes they go to Doha. How do you train their gut to the food that they get? What really happens? The 2-3 questions that I have. One is, I'm assuming that when elite athletes are going to another country, completely different region where they don't get the dal chawal khichdi kind of food, but they end up getting some roti, bread and some cheese and those kind of things. What does a nutritionist like you do in terms of planning? Do you plan well in advance to learn about the kind of food that they're going to have? How do you limit that? How do you train them? Do you train their gut? When we talked about periodization, do you also train their gut for, let's say, sushi before they go to Japan?
So I'll tell you, okay, what happens when I work with an athlete in nutrition, I always tell them what is your goal. If you're a footballer, you will end up in some European country, Germany, Spain, somewhere. If you're a tennis player, badminton, again, Asian countries, you will end up, Jakarta, Thailand, these kind, or maybe US, but these are your basic, or Vietnam, something. So when your goal is this, and you will end up in these kind of countries or in a year, so we need to train from the beginning. See, our Indian gut is something, first of all, which can digest anything in this world, okay? Yeah, most of the time it can digest anything and everything. It's just that our tongue needs to get adjusted. Our gut is not a problem, our tongue is a problem. Okay, why? Because we are so used to of sambar, vada, upma, different flavors, that even in whey protein we have chai flavor, and so many flavors are always introduced in India, whereas outside India always people are for unflavored stuffs. Okay, so what happens is like they are not used to of bland flavors, they are not used to of boiled, because in all these countries the entire format of that food is different. Like sushi, almost a raw item, it's there. So what happens? These athletes don't eat. Okay, or they kind of search for KFC and McDonald's in all these countries.
Do they carry, when the teams go to another country, do they carry certain...
They do carry MTR packets and all of those things, but how long you are going to sustain with that? Yes, you do carry. I always tell them carry, but then you need to train your palate and gut when you are here in India. When you know you will end up in some European country and all of that, at least once a month, go for a different cuisine, which is a different specific, not go for Indian Chinese item, which is done with curry leaves and mustard seeds, but go for authentic cuisines, train your gut. I've seen a lot of elite players who will generally eat Vietnamese food or Thai food because they know half of the time they are going to be in those countries and eating will be a difficult task. Okay, so I always tell parents and athletes, please allow your tongue to taste something else at least once in 15 days. Don't eat again same idli dosa outside what you have been eating at home. Yes, taste is different, but then the training has to happen much in advance. Not at that point. And yes, what happens when they travel, I do guide them. What are the foods you can pick up? What combinations? And I'm in constant touch. They call me at 2 also in the morning at times. One, so I will tell them what are the things you can pick up, this kind, how you can mix, match and do the things. And second thing, Kay, which is important quickly, whenever you're traveling, you should know at least some basic cooking skills. Okay,
Absolutely.
because you get into those apartments and hotels which have all the equipments and you can do a lot of things on your own. At least you should know how to make a khichdi, boil eggs, make plain rice, something. So I always insist on my athletes to learn one dish once a month at least, all my older guys.
That's a good advice. That's good advice. So now, look, I want to bring your attention to protein. Protein has been a well-spoken topic, and especially in modern days, we kind of come to in terms with understanding that okay, our food is not rich with protein, and then there's weight loss happening, muscle gain not happening.
Yes.
Or somebody is picking more fat, somebody metabolism is not good, athletic performance. So when we again focus protein, and the first question that I have is when we talk about young athletes, you talk about 7, 8, 9, 10, their body weight is about
Yes.
35, 40, 50 kgs versus also weightlifters, probably 100 plus kgs. How do you really plan their protein requirements? Do you go with supplements all the time? Or do you really source for, as a nutritionist, your focus is to get the plant-based or meat-based, animal-based protein first, and then anything which is of, let's say, a discrepancy there, and then you go for supplementation? How do you really plan the nutrition requirement around protein?
See, first is we calculate as like 1 to 2 grams per kg body weight, between that. 1.2, 1.5, 1.8, 2 grams, depending upon their requirement. And then first is food is taken into consideration.
And that requirement changes when somebody is doing an aerobic sport versus anaerobic sport.
That's what. Yeah. So it will be 1 to 2, I said, based on what sport they are in. And even among weightlifting, if I talk about it will not be applicable to all the athletes. Then again becomes who is training at what intensity level, all of that we plan, and body composition. So considering all of that, it's planned between 1.2 to 2 grams per kg body weight. Beyond that, we don't go. Then second thing is we try to get first from the food. It's very important. First is from the food. They need to learn, understand what are the protein sources, how their plate needs to always have proteins in their diet. So I educate them on that. I teach them performance plate. And then second is if I'm unable to reach my proteins, because if I see muscle loss is happening in the body composition and they are traveling a lot wherein it's difficult to get your meats or even dals or anything, then comes protein supplement in the picture, which is secondary, but first is food. Food first always, and then we decide on supplement. And definitely not below 12 or 13 years of age, I would go for a supplement. Once or twice I have gone because they were training really at a next level and pure vegetarian. So it was getting a little difficult to keep up with their protein demands and muscle loss and all of that. So I had to go. Otherwise, below 13, 14, I generally don't go for supplements, and only later only.
Okay, no. Especially when they're traveling to another country, this keeps bothering me all the time, especially elite athletes. They may not get the right source of let's say, vegetarian or even meat. The choice of meat is going to be different. So do you provide any kind of education before they go there? One is diet chart and nutrition chart is one level, and then kind of training them, hand-holding them during their training period. But when they are traveling, during the performance, they need to be extra sensitive to the kind of food that they access, because you don't want, you have a performance tomorrow, and you don't want to fall sick today, right? So how do you really
see at elite level K, we do need supplements when they are traveling athletes. Okay, my entire program is all about education. My diet chart is secondary. I don't make them dependent on a diet chart. Okay, because your life keeps changing every single day, every hour it changes. So don't be dependent on diet. I educate them. And yes, at an elite level, and when you're traveling a lot and when you have back-to-back tournaments, you can't afford to eat eggs and chicken in between, and then you will be heavy and then again you have to perform. and then it will digest when you are playing. So it will not work at that point. So yes, I do give supplements at that point, like a whey protein or some electrolyte drink or something like that to help them to support their game, supplement their things overall. So it will come in the picture.
Okay, and when they are, let's say in the pre-event, if the event is in the evening, let's say most of the IPL matches you see that it's happening in the evening hours, and of course your body clock says that shut down, it's time for you to sleep, but your performance clock says that hey, you know what, you need to be at the best at around 6 p.m. because sometimes the matches even go, they also go to different time zones. Acclimation is another thing, you know, when they go from lower altitude to higher altitude for performance. And I can imagine how complicated things can become when it comes to
Oh,
nutrition.
yes. At times, so those come as a competition guidelines kind. At times they get very complicated because what happens, I've worked with a couple of IPL players also. Okay, so different time zones and evening, morning will be there. Yes, food in all the cases. Even I had long distance swimming, swim meets, which happens, sea swimming and all, which happens early morning, 6 o'clock, 5:30. Yes, I have to train them eating early morning. They have to start. You just can't say, I can't eat and then jump in the sea or a pool, and you have to do 1500, 2000 meter or maybe more. So it will not happen. So then your rest becomes equally important. You sleep early, you wake up early accordingly and start eating. Even early morning marathons. I have to tell my marathon runners, like at 2 hours before what you have to eat, 30 minutes before, and just beginning your race, what you need to put in your mouth. Okay, so that's when comes what, when, and how much you have to eat. You can't eat a heavy meal just before a race. So then I have to educate them step by step how your eating has to happen. And a lot of times a sport doesn't happen on time. So for that also I keep educating them how you need to take care, what you need to keep eating during that entire phase so that you're not losing up on energy when you end up in your game.
Okay, now brilliant. Thanks for all those inputs. Now I'd like to bring your focus to the everyday athletes. Now I know the elite athletes, the fueling appears to be extremely complicated. Needs a lot of planning, coordination, working with the coaches, with the athlete, with the medical team, and the performance conditions, travel conditions. It's kind of a very, very complicated topic, but needs to be very well planned. And then, you know, that's why when you see the athlete finishing the race and, you know, lifting the biggest possible weight and then coming out with a medal, it gives a lot of a sense of great accomplishment. I just have one question. So now, when you kind of look through the kind of athletes that you've coached, can we talk about one or two cases where somebody was performing very well, you intervened, you have kind of went through their nutrition profile, and then brought in some changes, and then you saw a big change, you know, a big leap of change in terms of their performance? Can you talk about a couple of cases? And then
Yes, I have actually so many of them.
what exactly was the intervention, if you can probably highlight that?
Yes. So I have so many cases. So what happens, everybody who's coming to me is not like they are underperforming. There were cases wherein they were actually performing at a really good level. But then when I get into depth, then I understand, okay, injuries is something pretty common among them. Like at least basic ones keep happening, or their recovery is not happening regularly, or their blood parameters were going off. Like I was seeing in one of the athletes, her microalbumin was going way too high in her body. It was like what you will see in a kidney patient. And actually it was damaging her kidneys, not because of her bad eating, but because her training was way too much and eating was like not even what a regular person will eat. So there was a mismatch. Her organs were struggling to keep her internal health normal. So her ESR or the C-reactive protein, which are signs of inflammation, were way too high. And we discovered when we did the blood test. So for me, blood test is important in elite athletes, okay? So these we discovered, and she didn't knew in the background what all damage was happening, and really good performing athlete. Then I started working on bringing in more proteins, and uric acid was high. So we were able to bring her microalbumin to normal. Below 50, she was 300 plus. Okay, her uric acid became normal, and she could feel that I am feeling light. At one point, what I was struggling towards the end, though I was able to win a match, I am now feeling much, much lighter and feeling much better. I have more clarity to perform. So that was one aspect that I saw, like a lot of these blood parameters. Then we again figured out thyroid was shooting up high. Then I worked on it to bring it like within normal range and helped in reducing the weight basically. So coaches kept telling lose weight, very common. We keep hearing that everybody keep telling athletes, and everybody who has lost weight or thin are not performing well. So it's way more beyond losing weight. So we need to understand what all things. So these are some things that I worked on and helped them to go to next level without harming their body, because in most of the high performing athletes, harm was happening in the back end with their game.
Okay,
so
brilliant.
They told me how recovery was so tough and they were popping in so many supplements. I've actually helped athletes to cut down their supplement and still perform at a higher level. Creatine is also going on. Some recovery supplements are also going on. So many, so that their body is at normal peace.
Yeah.
But still it was not happening. So help them to cut down on their supplements and help in their improving things. So all these things have happened when all these high performing athletes have come to me.
Okay, brilliant. That looks like a lot of work, and then it's amazing to see how science can play a crucial role in combining that.
Sports nutrition, science is involved, we say. It's not about somebody writing a diet chart, don't eat potato, drink green tea. No, it's not that. It's way beyond bananas and eggs.
Absolutely, combination of science and experience, and also having a very good understanding on the sports is really important.
Yes.
Now, I'd like to bring your focus to everyday athletes. Now, I know when we look at the day in a life of an athlete, high performing athlete, it includes certain complexities. Now, what is your advice to an everyday athlete? Somebody who's aspiring to be healthy, aspiring to be fit, aspiring to move more. We are negotiating, okay, can you do 10,000 steps today versus 15,000 steps? And then can you cut down on certain food so that your body weight reduces, the fat reduces, and then you can move better? What is that from an elite based nutritionist focus to a common man, a normal, healthy, health seeking adult, or even children? So what should they be doing differently?
Yeah, so see, the thing is this, if you want to be a champion, player can be anybody, athlete can be anybody, but if you really want to be a champion in your game and have that name and that performance thing, then you need to be really disciplined with your eating. Very important. And parents also need to understand that, because that kind of environment needs to be created at home. You can't be sitting and eating pizzas and burgers and expect your young athlete to eat broccolis. It's not possible. So that environment at home is missing. So along with athletes, because they are young, a lot of things are in the hands of the parents to mold them and form them. So discipline in eating is very, very important. At times parents tell me, isn't it a torture for an athlete to keep them away from chocolates and burgers and all of them? Actually, it's had become a trend. If you're away, it's like a diet kind. So the thing is this, I always ask them, isn't it a torture to train 6 to 8 hours a day, to wake up at 4:30 and 5 in the morning and go for a run? If you don't consider that as a torture, then you need to eat accordingly to support that kind of training. Because at a very young age, these athletes are burning out. Early injuries are there. Growth is not happening. Short height, growth is stopping. The parents are tall. So you are not seeing performance, but background, these things you are observing that these things are happening. So like from the beginning, discipline and consistency is required in terms of eating.
Yeah,
Cheats
and
are
the
there.
entire family is involved in this process. It's not just
Yes,
that you have a gifted child, you have a gifted athlete at home. It's not that only that person is focused on healthy eating, right? So the entire ecosystem within the family needs to provide that kind of a support.
Yes. And when athlete will take 1 hour time to get back home, I educate parents and athletes, please be prepared, carry things with you. Otherwise, they'll stop by because I have played for 2 hours. Let me pamper my child with KFC or some juice or something. So all those planning, so raising an athlete or having an athlete at home is not an easy task. Ask me. It's not an easy thing. Okay. We have to have multiple foods, like educate them, help them at times it's too tiring with young athletes to help them to understand, but it is a consistent effort that needs to go in every single day. We have fussy eaters, picky eaters, but then athletes can't be picky eaters. It's what I always say.
So what is their reward? Let's say when they perform, so what is the go-to reward for young athletes or even performing athletes when they accomplish something? What is their go-to reward?
Go-to reward, like how they can reward themselves, basically.
Because food is a big deal.
Yeah. I always tell them, go and eat whatever you want to. And even I am not strict throughout the month, because see, it's a human body. We have cravings. So I always tell them, otherwise following a strict routine is a task. So at least once a week, go and eat something what you like. And everything is not junk. I educate them how junk can be healthy as well. It's just that education is required to transform the same burger or pizza into something else. So I always tell them, go for an ice cream, chocolate in between.
It's a source of good energy, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At times I give my racers like a big pizza in the beginning of their race, couple of them. Sometimes I've given donuts also, because not to everybody, but it's again a strategy. At times we work around with certain athletes, not with everybody, because it's a source of higher calories.
Ultra running, you know, eating and running is a very common discipline, common habit that you see, that because you need energy, you need good quantity carbohydrates and, you know, the protein in the right time. And of course, in terms of your micronutrients, in terms of the vitamins and the minerals that you get, all those things become really important. Rashmi, we have come to the end of this 45 minutes, very fast-paced conversation, and I'm really happy that I had learned a lot of things about the life of an elite athlete. And of course, we read a lot, and you know, I kind of also, as a habit, read research papers about how things work. But talking to a professional like you, getting some insights into their life and how you really plan and help them fuel better so that they perform ultimately better. So really a very insightful conversation. Thank you very much for your presence. I'm really happy that we were able to do this. Today, this is another step-by-step with Food Strong and with Rashmi Cherian, a famous nutritionist, and also especially working with elite level athletes. Thank you very much for your time. And I would like to quickly check if there are any questions that our audience have asked, and make sure that we answer that. There is some
we had few questions.
Plastic and BPA free. So there is somebody asked, isn't using plastic sachets going to harm the body in long term? And I'm assuming that, you know, some of the supplements come in plastic sachets. Is that BPA free? So can you please take this question and talk about it?
See, what happens is, like, yes, plastic is harmful, and especially when hot things get into it, that's when it becomes more harmful. But can't help it, because plastic is something, lot of brands are now trying to go for reusable items, but at times packaging gets really difficult to get into paper and carton, and import, export, everything gets difficult. So it is harmful, but can't help it. Like I said, Indian gut can digest and absorb anything. So things are going on around in that. But whenever you use your own plastic bottles or any dabbas and all of that, yes, check for BPA free items. And as far as you steel items,
and don't be emotional about, oh, this is a plastic bottle I used like 7 years back, I want to keep it. I think that's really fun, because I remember I used to do that. You know, some of my water bottles, because, you know, go for ultra running, I carry a handheld flask. You know that whenever you see the bottle, you have certain memories, right? All right. So there's one more question from Sujata Subindra. I'm a long distance vegetarian runner going through pre-menopause. Whey protein gets me bloated. How do I manage my protein supply?
Okay, so Sujata, you need to see, actually whey protein is causing bloating or other factors are responsible, okay? And whey protein could be causing you bloating because of the lactose, though a lot of whey proteins don't have it. You can try isolate also, because generally that is devoid of lactose, and whey isolates little on expensive side, but then they are more purified version of protein and they generally don't give bloating. So you can give a try with whey isolates and see if it's helping you, but do check with your other eating habits if anything else also is causing you to bloat. And just see, whey should be mixed in water because a lot of people mix it in milk and that also gives a lot of bloating issues as well. So just see it happens in water and check your other items also if something else is creating gut issue.
But would a gut microbiome test kind of thing would help anybody dealing with this kind of bloating issues?
See, what happens is like generally this gut test I go after a certain level if after correcting everything it's still not working and still they are dealing with IBS or something, but most of the time it's because of some triggers in the food which is causing you not to, like could be a gluten, could be milk based items which is not going well with your gut. So we need to see that. Eggs also, yes, sometimes egg yellows are a problem, egg whites are not a problem.
Okay, all right. I think one last statement, Prasanna Priya, Running, Living and More, she said, love the statement, athletes cannot be picky eaters. Okay. I think which is very true, right? When you want to fuel right, you need to eat. And you can't be waiting for the best. Yeah, you can't be waiting for the best meal to appear right in front of you whenever you need for that. All right, that brings an end to this conversation. Rashmi, thank you very much, and you have a
Thanks
fabulous...
a lot, Kate. Pleasure talking to you. And thanks to Food Strong for inviting me for this conversation.
All right, then bye-bye. Thank you, everyone, for your patience and also staying with us. And I'm going to be ending this conversation now. Thank you. This is Coach K signing off. Bye-bye.
Bye. Good night.